Indiana football on a bye week, of course. Their new offensive coordinator in place, Rod Carey, since we spoke last. Dustin, Indiana has made a change there that is not shocking at all. I mean, Tom Allen is absolutely feeling pressure without question because the team is just not performing. And there's just not a good feeling amongst the Indiana fan base, which,
well,
when is there a good feeling among the Indiana football fan base? But
it's been a couple years.
Yeah.
But
Rod Carey is a veteran. He has a great experience as an OC. Kind of wondering why he wasn't hired as the OC 2 years ago, since wasn't he already on staff? Or did he come on staff at the same time? Because he took over O-line duties before they brought in a new coach. I'm like, so you've got this guy here all the time and you keep plugging. It's a little weird. But
yeah,
I expect
it's a lot of shifting around, and I don't know.
A lot of ins and outs, a lot of facets.
Yep, and the things that
Big Lebowski reference.
I don't know. People can get excited about this. I don't know how much different Indiana's offense is actually going to be. The one thing that I will say is the really frustrating thing about watching these Indiana games is it has seemed like their scripted drives. I mean, you might as well have thrown the play sheets in the trash. They have been the least aggressive team.
I've already wondered if, and I wanted to ask that question, did Walt Bell just start the game with a 20-play scripted? Because some guys do that. For those of you that don't know, there are some quarters that they go into a game with the first, say, 20 plays pre-scripted. Doesn't matter what the down and distance is. And I'm like, I would just think that. I mean, if it's a 3rd down and 1 and you happen to have an XYZ out long, why would you do that? But
we'll
see.
What the strategy seemed to me to be, we're going to do a bunch of short screen passes and run the ball and try to get Taven Jackson into a rhythm, and then we'll try to open it up the rest of the game. But the problem is they were in that Maryland game. A lot of those drives didn't result in points. Obviously, they only scored 17. But when they started to open things up and started to throw the ball down the field and be more aggressive, they were moving the ball. They were picking up yardage, but they waited way too long to do it. You can't get down 21-0 before you start to do that. Like, you don't have to do it maybe on your first drive, but on the second drive, those things have worked. Look at the second half of the Louisville game. Night and day difference. When they start to open things up, I'd have to go back and watch to see specifically if it was what the play calling was like in the first and second half. But if I recall correctly, they were more aggressive in the second half because they had to be. When Indiana's been more aggressive, better things happen. They're able to keep the opposing offense on the sideline. They get their defense some breaks. And when your defense has to be on the field constantly against a pretty explosive Maryland offense, it looks like it did on Saturday. So I've said all season long, this team doesn't have to score 40 points a game to win games. If they can have productive drives, if they can get some field goals, and then occasionally get into the end zone, they've got the defense, I still think, to beat teams like Illinois, Purdue, Michigan State, Rutgers. But you have to be productive. You can't have a 3 and out. You can't take 1 minute off the game clock. Those are the kind of things that have hurt Indiana so far through the first 5 games. And maybe this is different. I don't know. They're not going to change a bunch of schemes by switching offensive coordinators at this point in the season. They've got a bye week. I just want to see them be more aggressive earlier in the game because I think at least then you're going down with a fight. Right now it doesn't feel like they're going down with a fight.
I want to go and throw something in there since Dustin's mentioning that not much is going to change. Rod Carey did specifically mention that in his introductory press conference. I want to go ahead and share that right here.
You know, there's nothing you can do midseason as far as setup. The setup is the setup. The offense is the offense. And So what you're trying to do is get us to run those plays better and maybe do it with a different little flair here and there. That's about all you can do. And I'm excited about it. I think the guys are too, being with the offense the last 2 days and the offensive staff. We've had flashes, so we need to make those flashes more permanent light on.
Yeah, I agree. It's just attention to detail. It's doing things better. It's doing them right, doing them correctly. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're not going to be successful. If the left tackle is not getting the chip off of the end or whatever it calls for on a particular play blows up. It takes one missed assignment to blow a play up, period. And believe me, it's like dancing. Offensive plays, it's choreographed. Everybody has a move to make, a first step that they have to make right in a direct direction. If it's a pulling guard, boy, when that ball snapped, his first step has got to be back and on the way out, whatever the case may be. I don't know that if Indiana has had the drive on offense to do everything right. And maybe that's because they were getting down. I don't know. Maybe Rod Carey is able to get them back to paying attention to detail and being point on, because they have to be to win these games. To beat the teams you just mentioned, they're going to have to be on point. Mm-hmm. You cannot be substandard and beat those teams.
And this is why I brought up the point of those three teams that they have lost to being undefeated. Because I don't think Louisville is that good. But, I mean, it's not like they're not bad. Don't get me wrong. They're not bad, but they're not great.
No, they play in an average conference. That's why they're 4 or 5, whatever, and they have a good coach. They have a good system. They're going to continue to get better. But right now, they're a better than average team.
So if you want to look at this optimistically, if you're an Indiana fan, and I think John is probably in the same camp as I still think that there are a lot of, maybe not a lot, I still think they can get to 4 more wins on the season, because I don't think the Big Ten is that good. Illinois has looked not good. Their defense is terrible. Purdue has had trouble with turnovers the last couple games. Their defense it was better against Illinois. It's not good. Michigan State's a dumpster fire. Rutgers is Rutgers. That's going to be a tough game. So if you want to look at this optimistically, can they still get to 6 wins? I think so, but they've got to do something offensively. You can't keep beating your head against the wall. And I think that's why they made this change in the bye week. Last year, when Rod Carey was bumped into that offensive line coach role, it wasn't a drastic difference, but it did provide a spark, did light a fire. They looked a little bit better. So they won what?
They go to Michigan State and shocked. They went to Michigan State and I'm still shocked over that win.
And so I think that they can get some wins. We'll see if this lights a spark. If it does the same thing and they get, I still think even if they get to 5, because look, Michigan and Penn State are going to be ugly. I hate to break that to everybody, but there's no chance. Indiana's offensive line has no chance against those 2 defensive lines. But if you get Michigan and Penn State.
Oh yeah, no.
But if you get better and you become the aggressor offensively, there's no reason you can't be competitive against those 4 teams I just mentioned. Those are not good football teams.
Yeah, but you're not expected to beat those teams, so that's okay.
Right.
You're just going to take your ass whipping and go home.
Right.
I mean, that's just all there is to that. That's just like, you know what it is. But it's the other games you are capable of winning that you have to win, but they're not going to be a favorite. They weren't a favorite in any of those games a couple of weeks ago. But that changes if they come out of the Michigan game and the following week. Who do they have the following week?
It's Rutgers at home after that.
Boom.
Johnny on the spot.
Thank you, John. Yesterday, I think it was Rick Bozitz. That is the game right there. That's the pivot game. You lose that, you lose the season.
I would agree.
It was kind of like the Louisville game was the litmus test. And it was like, it was a tale of two halves, a tale of two teams. But at the end of the day, you scored 14 points, period.
Mm-hmm.
So that was not a good litmus test. And it was probably that started the ball rolling for Walt Bell getting fired in season. That horrible call was just, it's just horrible. There's nothing else you could say. It was the worst call of his career because it was part of what cost him his job. But moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see if Indiana can rise up there and beat teams that they should beat, but on paper now they're still not supposed to beat. Like Rutgers, they're not going to be a favorite. They're not going to be a favorite. No. I will doubt that they'll be a favorite at home.
I don't know that I would put these teams in the category of should beat them, but they're on equal footing, is how I would probably phrase that. They're not. They are more than capable of beating those four teams that we talked about. And look, Wisconsin's really good too. Wisconsin's had some struggles early in the season. Now we'll see what they're able to do. You might not be able to win that game, but if you can keep that game competitive, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. That's a good point. I didn't realize that they had Rutgers after Michigan, and I want to see Indiana. I didn't hate this. I didn't hate the game plan against Ohio State. I know a lot of people did. I didn't hate it because Indiana had a chance early in that game. They took some opportunities. They didn't get blown. The doors didn't get blown off them right away. But I want to see something different against Michigan. You're not going to beat Michigan playing the way, or not. You're not even going to be competitive trying to play in Michigan the way you've been playing. So be aggressive, and if you throw 4 or 5 interceptions in that game and you get beat 55-7, so be it. But go down swinging.
Justin asking if Tom Allen's job is in jeopardy yet. My answer to that has been no all year. No. And doesn't matter if he loses every game on the schedule. There is a $20 million buyout until December 1st of 2024. So my answer is no. I don't believe that there's any chance, a snowball's chance in hell that there's any jeopardy of that. I could be wrong, but I'm not seeing that coming along.